Parramatta Phoenix collapses. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I had my evening stein of coffee, and I thought we'd have a look at this article written by Frank Chung from news.com.au about the Parramatta Phoenix restaurant, a Sydney yum chai icon, that has now collapsed due to the coronavirus fears. And we've seen this happen in many other Asian restaurants around the country. Even though our civic leaders are encouraging people to go and dine, people are getting scared and worried. We've had the first human-to-human transmission of the disease disease in New South Wales. So it's happened here in Australia. We've also had the first death. So a lot of people are worried. A lot of people are concerned. Considering the virility of the virus and the mortality, those are things that we'll have to see what the real numbers are now that it's occurring here in Australia. Let's have a look at this. So, a popular Sydney Chinese restaurant famed for its yum cha has collapsed as the coronavirus downturn escalates. So, a popular Sydney Chinese restaurant famed for its yum cha has collapsed as the sales slump from the coronavirus outbreak begins to claim its first major victims. And what we're seeing here, a lot of people will say, oh, why are they just collapsing over so little, a few months of declined trade, even when it's quite drastic. One thing that you have to realize is that as a business owner, you know where things are going. You can see what's going to turn around the business. We had down Australia Fair down the Gold Coast. There was a woman who was working in a nail salon or something, and she potentially exposed 40 people there. Do you think I feel sorry actually for the other retailers in that centre, because I've been there and it's looking pretty tired. It's looking pretty tired. Do you think the other tenants are going to cop some reduced traffic? If you have multiple options of shopping centres to go to, do you think people will go to that one, or will they go somewhere else? Even if the risk is no different going to another one to there, they'll go somewhere else. These are the type of things that stick in the memory, and that's what people associate with. Parramatta Phoenix, based in the suburbs Westfield Shopping Centre, was placed into voluntary administration this morning. A related business, Darlinghurst Asian Fusion Restaurant, Mr. D's Kitchen, has gone into liquidation. Christopher Darren, partner at insolvency firm Worrells, has been appointed voluntary administrator of Parramatta Phoenix Proprietary Limited and liquidator of Mr. D's Kitchen Proprietary Limited. Maybe it is actually a good time to invest in these liquidation firms. I know some people say in a recession it's not the best time to be putting money into these places. Maybe it is, guys. Maybe it is. Or maybe I'm just reading too much news about the retail recession and now these other businesses that are going under. As we've just been appointed this morning, we are still in the initial stages of gathering each company's books and records to commence our assessment of the reasons for failure, Mr. Darren said in a statement to news.com.au. However, the director has indicated in initial discussions that one of the factors in the fall in turnover of the restaurants is a reaction to the coronavirus. Calvin Chen, whose family owns the Phoenix Restaurant Group, told news.com.au his other locations, Sky Phoenix in the Sydney CBD, East Phoenix, and E-Dragon Dumpling Bar in Zetland, Road Phoenix, and Brisbane Phoenix were all trading as normal. So that's interesting. Why would the other businesses be trading at normal and just that one isn't? Perhaps it's just to do with the confidence that people have in that area. Or maybe as we see more fear spread wider, because people were saying in the comments that their local shop has been emptied. News.com are doing articles showing empty shelves here in Australia. We've seen it happen overseas. Are you worried? Guys, I'm not particularly worried, but then again, I'm not at the demographic of risk. I'm pretty I know I like to say how old I am, but I'm You know, I'm about to hit middle age, so I'm still reasonably fit and healthy. Probably do with a bit of extra muscles and working out a bit more, but that's got more to do with me not lifting the metal enough. So, but the biggest factor for us is we work from home. So the idea of self-isolating is not really a problem. I probably have to get out, you know. But guys, let me know your concerns in the comments. Would you avoid restaurants? Would you avoid places? Would you avoid gatherings? Or are you not worried about it? I know there's some blokes, when I did a video about beards, they would go, no, I'll keep my beard before I put a mask on. So restaurants and retailers in areas with large Chinese populations have been particularly hard hit by the outbreak, with Chinatowns in Sydney and Melbourne described as ghost towns since January. Well, apparently trade has been down at some of the eateries around here in Sunnybank, which is the Chinese suburb in Brisbane, and I went to a local yum cha place with Mina, and it was packed. You know, lunchtime. It seemed quite busy, although there wasn't really a queue outside. Maybe it's busier. It's not really somewhere we go to too often. Some restaurants have reported revenue falls of more than 50%. And see, that's huge, guys, for a business like that. Because you've got to sell a lot of these things. You have to keep them going through the doors. Because when your revenue falls, your other costs don't. Sure, you can cut wages a little bit, but there's only so much. Your power, your rent, keeping everything running, everything clean. You still have to buy your stock. You may be able to reduce it a bit, but you can't, you know, it goes bad. You got to keep it rotating through the business. Andrew Spring, partner at insolvency firm Juris Sutherland, said he had heard of a couple businesses collapsing that had cited the coronavirus, but generally speaking, those businesses might have had other issues and the virus may well have been the catalyst. I mean, that's a good point. That could be what we're seeing here. That could be what we're seeing here. In a couple of months, it may all blow over and these businesses may have already been in trouble, similar to what Jerry Harvey was saying yesterday with regards to retailers that were collapsing. But Mr. Spring said he expects things to rapidly get worse. Juris Sutherland has set up a dedicated hotline with Chinese language instructions for affected businesses. It is currently getting around 10 to 20 inquiries a day. That's a tough situation to be in, because as a business owner, you have to plan for particular risks. You have to have contingencies. But how could you plan for this? For a business owner, this is a black swan event. This is an unforeseen event. My suspicion is most people have working capital reserves to get through about a 6-week period, which is where we're at. So it's going to bite into the future, he said. No doubt there's going to be some collateral damage. Even if things were to improve immediately, it's still 6 weeks of pain businesses have to recover from. So I suspect we will see a lot of businesses that are going to have this as the actual reason for going under. Mr. Spring said tourism, travel, retail, hospitality, and IT were the most directly affected. But he's even spoken to someone in the eyelash business who was struggling with supply issues. Every single business has totally different problems, he said. One I was talking to recently, it was a disaster management scenario where their server had failed. They'd gone to try and find a new server, but due to the Intel plant being shut down, there was a 2 or 3 month back order to get a replacement. That's pretty damaging to a business where you don't have access to your information. That's crazy. That is crazy. You need to have redundant servers, really, or at least a backup server. Wow. Surely you could virtually machine on it something, even if it's crappier and running much slower. But I mean, I've got 4 old HP Pro lines that I'm not using anymore, but I could crank them up and get them running if I needed to. I guess that's the advantage of scaling back your workforce. I've got all these computers everywhere now. He cited another business, a deep-sea fishing tour operator on the North Coast, who has basically found his demand has disappeared pretty much overnight. The business had no real issues previously, but obviously he has some fixed costs that need to be met, Mr. Spring said. He said, I can hold on for 3 months. But after that, he needs to build contingency plans, rationalizing costs with a view to either mothballing operations or shutting down. And that's the thing. The risk is that this could have long-term economic impacts where these businesses shut down, where we have a whole string of businesses shutting down. He added that the end of this month was more likely to be the point where we see the panic station set in, as quarterly statutory liabilities such as superannuation come due. Mr. Springs said the government may need to step in, either with stimulus packages or other programs, particularly coming off the back of the devastating bushfires. Historically, governments provide a framework within which commercial opportunities are fostered, whether successfully or unsuccessfully, he said. It seems to me, if this is to persist, it's likely that textbook needs to be thrown out. Calls for intervention are we having? It comes as the Prime Minister signalled work was well underway on a response to the financial impacts of the virus, as he held a meeting with central bank chiefs. With the coronavirus sparking fears of global recession, the Reserve Bank is widely expected to cut interest rates to soften the impact. And someone shared in a comment that the ASX interest rate cut, and I will bring that up over here on this other page as we jump to it. I should have prepared it. That they are intending, well, now it's signalling 100%. 100% cut for tomorrow. So we'll have to see, guys. We'll have to see. And I did a survey on YouTube asking, some of you are saying yes, maybe 15 points of the cut will be passed on to consumers. We'll have to see. I mean, it's not like anyone's getting any interest anymore on their savings. And if they're going to give me a deduction on my mortgage, I'll happily take it. I'll happily take it. But do you think I'm going to rush out there and spend more? Nope, not at all. It's a board meeting on Tuesday, a day ahead of the release of the last quarterly economic growth figures, which economists expect will again show a sluggish expansion even before the outbreak of COVID-19. This is a health crisis, not a financial crisis, but it is a health crisis with very significant economic implications, Mr. Morrison told Parliament on Monday, noting his meeting with the RBA Governor and Deputy Governor. We'll be focusing on ensuring that we keep Australians in jobs, we keep businesses in business, and we keep investments flowing during what will be a very challenging time for the Australian economy. Mr. Morrison said when the health crisis was over, there would be a bounce back for the Australian economy. Really? We'll have to see. We will have to see. Because think about it, guys. GDP growth ain't doing particularly well. But this tourism sector and then the university education sector, these are both going to be affected by the international travel, by closed borders. That's going to have an impact on a lot of businesses. And we're seeing this right here in this article. Where's the bounce back going to happen? And do we even know how long this is going to last? Even if the fear dissipates in a month, in 6 months. I mean, even if it isn't as dangerous as people think, it's the fear that will affect the economy. How will consumer sentiment take another cut, guys? Going down to 0.5. I mean, we'll be able to tell our children this one day, perhaps. I remember when interest rates used to be positive. And they go, what? No, never. Yep. We got paid for our money in the bank. Or we had to pay to borrow money. They'll look at us shocked. The tourism sector in particular faces losses running into billions of dollars due to the travel ban on Chinese visitors in an attempt to contain COVID-19. The education sector is also bearing the brunt of travel restrictions. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg, who also attended the meeting with RBA officials, told Parliament Australia was well placed to deal with the impacts from the virus. Our fiscal response will be considered. It will be responsible and it will be targeted, he said. Well, we'll see. We'll see if they're looking at stimulus spending into infrastructure or construction, how much of that is sourced from overseas. Shadow Treasurer Jim Chalmers is open to a stimulus package to assist the impact of the virus, but argues the economy has been in desperate need of support for some time. The national accounts for the December quarter are due on Wednesday, which will not include the full impact of summer's devastating bushfires either. Economists at this stage expect the economy grew by a slim 0.4% in the quarter, with some having marked down their predictions in the face of weak construction and building business investment due last week. While this will lift the annual rate to 2% from 1.7% as the September quarter, it would still leave growth well below its long-term trend. Well, if you look at our trend from the GFC on a per capita basis in GDP growth, we've been depressed since 2008, guys. Since 2008, when you account for the population growth, there you go. We're getting worse off per person. Economists will finalise their forecast after business, government spending and international trade figures early next week. Treasury officials can be expected to be grilled on the growth results when they face Senate estimates on Thursday, having repeatedly had to downgrade their expectations in recent history. So there we have it, guys. An example of a business that was just perhaps tipped over the edge by this fear. And 6 weeks running capital, some businesses are having to shut down or mothball. What impact do you think this will have on the economy, guys? I think it's going to leave a legacy, even if it's unfounded. I'm just looking at these. There you go, guys. You know, the sugary treats. I wouldn't mind the custard tarts, though. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and you want to help us produce more content, there are a few ways you can. You can support the channel by joining us on Patreon. You can also support it by joining the channel here on YouTube for a small monthly fee. You can use our affiliate links with Amazon or eBay for your consumer purchases. We receive our advertisers' commission. It doesn't cost you a cent. You can use our affiliate links with Independent Reserve for the crypto traders or Kucoin for the other crypto traders. We also have merchandise. We sell pocket squares. I keep getting my hand wrong with that one there. I'll bring a picture up. Have a look at it on the HeiseSays website. And finally, PayPal if you want to contribute that way. Another way to support, and probably really useful one, is simply to share the videos and help the channel grow. Get the word out there, spread it, so more people can get, a bit of a different perspective and can start talking about the economy as well. I have to see how it all goes, guys. Anyway, have a great night, and I will see you later. Bye for now.